So today we're going to continue on with destroying my coupe and putting on the wide body. This is the other side fender. It's going on today. Get your drills and your saws. It's going to get messy. Okay, so today we are going to get the driver's side rear quarter on. Now this work is going to be done pretty similar, honestly, to the passenger side that's already done. Now, thankfully, I don't have a fuel door to worry about, but that also doesn't give me an extra piece here that I can clamp to. So I've got to do a little bit of difference on how I clamp the over fender on first before I mark everything and then get it all done. So to start with, you can see I've got the tape up here. That's just to keep from scratching the paint up too bad, taking the fender on and off and that. So if I lift this up, you can see along down in here, you can see these little marks in there, and that is where the marks define where the bolts go, or the fender, I guess the button head screws go on there. So I've already done that, and that is a duplication of the other side of the car. So that is taped up, and then let me show you something on the other side that I think came out pretty nice, and you guys will probably appreciate the mistake and how I fixed it. Okay, so when I put all of the front fender together here, you remember I said in here I overcut this. And it's because this over fender came in and hit right on this edge. It was kind of curled up and in. Really couldn't get it to fit. So I ended up chopping it. You can see down in there the cut lines where I cut it. And I thought, oh man, this is overcut. What I ended up doing is taking this piece. This is literally the piece that I cut off. I took it, flipped it over, and then I put in 2 screws to hold it together. Now you can see it actually matches up nicely to the car. If you look down the line, down through there, matches up pretty well. And it's got a little bit of light leak right there, but I think that's going to be okay because remember, I'm going to put in a cover over this anyway, so you won't see it from the bottom. But that is at least the passenger fender done. So now I'm back over here on the driver's side. Since I can't clamp it as well using only the fender here and not having a fuel door, I actually went yesterday and held this up in place, got it up marked, and got it fit to the body lines here. What I'm going to do with that is to take, I just basically held it in place. Honestly, I held it in place, and I had the marks already done, and I drilled it on the top 2. So this, you can see, is already done here. This is drilled, and over on the top corner is drilled. What I can do from now on is I can, I'm going to change this sequence and cut this out, do all the cut work first, get that all done, and then I'm going to go back and put in the riv nuts in the body. That's a little bit different than I did before. I actually did the opposite of that, and that I think is just going to be a little bit easier. So without further ado, let's get some cutting done and enjoy. This is going to be awesome. Okay, so the compressor's firing up, and I've got everything cleaned up. So you guys, some of you guys had said you were surprised I didn't take more care in not spraying sparks and everything. And I'm going to totally agree with you guys. I didn't realize sparks were going to go everywhere in dust. So I've got the car kind of protected up and taped up. This is kind of an old piece of really thin plastic I've had. So it's going to protect it a little bit because sparks are going to go away, and I'm going to get this door open and start cutting. So get ready. So it's so It's so cold out here. I think it's like 24 degrees outside. My cutting tool is actually freezing. So I don't have a water removal filter or anything on my compressor coming out. So by the time my tool gets to my tool, the air gets to my tool, damn thing's freezing. Seriously, it's getting ice chunks. It's blowing ice chunks out of the hole. So this is gonna take a little bit of time. Wish I could have done this when it's 70 degrees out, but I'll get it done today. So if you're gonna cut and work in the cold, be ready for freezing tools. All right, so I've got some progress made on getting everything done. So you can obviously see I took off the pie cut. You remember the pie cut that goes first, kind of the window that comes out. Next, you go in there and you take off the double lip where they both come together, basically the two folds come together and spot welded underneath. That next comes out, and then that leaves you with this. So the next piece I need to do is, obviously I've marked here and I need to cut my 1-inch pie cuts. Now an inch, I actually saw it on the internet, and of course it actually did work. So I would say roughly an inch kind of. And one thing I'm doing on this one versus the other side is that I didn't grind while everything was together, I guess, before I pie cut. This one I'm going to do that because after you pie cut and start bending and all that stuff, it really makes it hard to get your grinding wheel in there. So I've ground the surface here, which you know will get some zinc coating on before I weld. And then I've ground the inner down all the way up under the lip. Again, it'll get some zinc coating before I weld. And once it's cut and everything, I'll double check it, make sure it's clean there. But everything's cut. The pike marks are in at least, and I need to continue on with cutting this out. So far so good. Everything that I learned on the far side, on the passenger side, has worked out, and I think if you guys follow that for the detailed instruction, you'll be successful if you want to do this. And again, I've got it pretty well contained for dirt. Make sure you cover everything because this thing gets messy in a hurry. Alright, so with the pie cuts made, I've now used the cutting wheel to cut up as close as I could, used a hacksaw to get further up under the lip here so that I can bend these out. Now this inner and the outer do not fit well. It's really kind of spaced out. I'm really kind of surprised. But it will be fine. It was fine for the OEM, but for this it's not really great. So with this I'm just going to make it work. And I've already sprayed, you can see this silver grayish there. That is the weld through primer. And because it's so cold, I sprayed it on a little thick. And then I went and used my heat gun to basically dry it, to evaporate all the solvents off. So now I'm going to take a quick break on that. When I come back, I will start welding on this. So I need to get my welder set up, get my bottle turned on, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll show you how I'm going to weld this, because now that I have an axle under here, I can't use the floor jack as easy as I did before. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all the kind of the little finger, the pie cuts bent up to where they will touch this outer now. So if I pan out a little bit, so you see the axle, this is the exact same piece of 2x4 I had previously for the other side. Before I used the floor jack to basically pump, I guess I pumped it up until this contacted and pushed everything all together. What I'm doing here is actually just using one of the lugs, and so that I can turn the axle itself, and the rotation of the motion pushes this up and down like a cam. So what I can do is use the same piece of 2x4 I just cut off about an inch because I needed a little less length to be able to fit on the lugs itself, and then I can just turn the axle back and forth, and that will actually go up and down to move this into place to where I can hold it, I can turn it, hold it like it is now, it'll hold it in place to weld it, and then when I'm done, I just change the position, move elsewhere. Great thing is, where the jack, you know, has a hard time, it wants to go linearly, it has a hard time going off angle, where this will actually rotate with the axle, and it will give you the angle a little bit easier this way. So, depending on how you have it, if you have a floor jack or an axle, there is a way to do it. So once you have everything ready to go, you get it welded up, this is what it's going to look like. Be nice and black. It'll be charcoaled. So this I'm going to let cool down, and once we'll take a lunch break really. once it's going to be cool and I come back out, I'm going to scrub it down with a detail brush, just basically a brass or a steel small detail brush, just to kind of clean it up. I will then hit it with some etch primer to make sure anything that is bare metal that is left over is going to be coated. And then I will leave that alone for now until I come back and paint everything else, and I will do that later on. So from there on, this pretty much is going to be done, other than I need to seal it up with some more boom mat, which I'll do, just like I did on the other side. Either seal it on the inside or the outside, depending on what I can get to. I prefer inside, but I will take either because it needs to be sealed either way. And then from there, it's a matter of going back to getting the flare to fit and drilling a hole and putting some riv nuts in. So once everything's painted and dried, you can then start putting your fender on. So, like I said, I actually put in the top two, so this is the top rear, and then you got the top front back here to do this. So, I held them up, drilled it, just put in the riv nut, put in 2 screws, and they're finger tight, so they're not all the way compressed, but they will be. And then you can see that it's got a little bit of play here, which is fine, because then once you want to drill, you can just press this down in, make sure the surfaces touch, drill that hole, and then it's done. I'll tell you that these things don't fit identical side to side, but I'll tell you what, most people are not going to know. I'm going to know because I've used tape measure and I'm really eyeballing this stuff and keeping an eye on it. There are some differences side to side, and then you'll have to do a couple fine tunes and here and there to make sure it fits like you want, that I want. Just going to take a little bit of a grinding wheel, honestly, just to clean it off a little bit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'll tell you, on this side here, what you can see is there's a lot of contact here, and this is not recessed to go around the bumper. You look here, you see how much this contours around the bumper there and goes under the car? So with this, what I'll do is just basically use my grinder and just take out a little bit here so that it has a little bit more curvature and conforms better to the bumper here. It's just going to be just a little bit of grinding, fit, grinding, fit, grinding, fit, until I get it like I want. And also here, you can see kind of along the bottom bumper here, that's not great. So again, I'll just use just my grinding wheel and compressor. And I'm just going to kind of just give that a little shave. And everything's going to fit beautifully. And yeah, no fuel door, but hey, this baby's going to look sweet when it's done. Okay, so here's what the finished product is going to look like. Now, I also need to take off the tape, but you can see all the button head screws are in there, so the rev nuts are obviously in there. Now, the last things I need to do to this is to seal it up with some boom mat, some inside and out, which I will do, and then I need to scrape off the molding residue for the body moldings and that and get the car painted. I think the only thing worse than watching somebody do that is having to do it, so I will spare you that. So with this, I leave you with the picture. Oh, look how fat that thing is. Fat. Anyway, this is probably about 6 hours worth of work, and I'm going to call it a good day and go get a beer. So just remember, guys, if you think you can't do this, every icon in the industry started the same way you are, with no skills or limited skills, and they had to grow and get those skills, earn the skills to pay the bills, is what I always like to say. So that's it for this time. Now, I still have 5 lugs, spindles on the front to put on, measure for the tires, complete fuel system, electrical, brakes. Oh yeah, I need to put an engine in here too. So all that's to come over the winter months. Some call it build season. I'm going to call it the winter months, because this thing is probably not going to be done building for a couple years. So hope you enjoyed that for today. Any questions on what I've done? I know I've rushed. If you have questions on this, either refer back to the passenger side or drop me a line. All the tools I use are pretty simple, and they are available off Amazon down there. If you go down the link to the Amazon store down there that I've got, you guys can find everything there. And I think that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Christmas is coming. Hopefully you got some good stuff coming from Santa. We'll see you soon.